Welcome back to the radio. Where are you listening from, and what time is it where you are right now? However your evening looks, I'm glad you've tuned in. If this is your first time here, feel free to subscribe to Quilloren Radio, where a new story arrives every night, each one meant to ease you gently into sleep. Tonight, we drift back to the year 1996. You're a kid again, waiting beside your stereo, finger hovering over the record button, building the perfect mixtape one song at a time. Without further ado, let's begin. The bedroom has that familiar smell, a mix of dust warmed by sunlight, an old sneaker somewhere under the bed, and a faint trace of orange-scented furniture polish your mom uses once every other Saturday. Whether things need it or not, the air is thick with summer. Not the heavy kind that knocks you out, but the kind that sticks to your arms, just enough to make you aware of them. The ceiling fan isn't strong enough to do anything useful, but it makes a soft clicking sound every few seconds, like it's trying to remind you it's still working. Your room is small, but it contains everything. A twin bed with faded sheets that might have had rockets on them once, or possibly blue fish. A plastic drawer set with handles that always fall off. A desk that used to be a dining table, according to family lore. And the stereo, the real reason you're here. It sits against the far wall, just below the window, right where the sun hits the floor in long yellow slats. Its surface is faintly sticky from fingerprints, and whatever was spilled during the last attempt to eat cereal during a countdown show. You sit on the carpet with your knees pulled up, elbows resting on them. The stereo is one of those all-in-one cassette radio combos, not fancy, but solid. The speakers are built into the sides, and if you turn the volume up past halfway, the left one buzzes a little like it's trying too hard. You've learned its moods. The volume knob is slightly loose, and the eject button only works if you press it with your thumb and then your palm for reinforcement. The record button feels the best, wide, red, and satisfying to press, like launching something. Today's mission is simple. Catch a few good songs for your mixtape. You've already filled Side A over the course of the week. Now it's Side B's turn. The label, written in your very best handwriting, which still slopes unevenly, reads Hits, Summer 96. You're not entirely sure what qualifies as a hit, but if you've heard it twice and it makes your fingers drum the bed frame, that's good enough. The cassette clicks into place with a thunk that's comforting in its certainty. You press the rewind button just to make sure you're at the start of the side. The little wheels spin, soft whirring, then stop. Reset. Ready. Outside your open window, the world continues like it always does, on summer afternoons. A lawnmower drones somewhere down the street, the motor rising and falling as it changes direction. A couple of birds argue over something in the tree near the fence. There's the distant thud of a basketball, likely your neighbor again, who believes deeply in free throws but not in conversation. Your stereo is tuned to your station, not the station, your station. The one where the DJs always seem like they're just barely holding it together, where someone's always calling in to request a birthday song or confess a crush anonymously. They never play commercials at the same volume as the music, and that somehow makes them feel more real. It's not the highest quality signal. There's always a gentle fuzz along the edges, like the audio is wearing a wool sweater. But it's your favorite. It's the only one that seems to understand the importance of playing TLC, Alanis, and Mariah all in the same hour. You adjust the antenna, a careful process that involves standing on your knees and leaning awkwardly over the stereo until the static reduces just enough. You know better than to touch it too much. The last time you got greedy for a perfect signal, the whole station vanished, replaced by what might have been a fishing report or a very monotone sermon. The DJ is rambling now, talking about traffic and thanking someone named Debbie from Northview for sending brownies. You don't know who Debbie is, but you silently thank her too. DJs seem happier when they're chewing on something. Maybe that means they'll play better songs. You sit back down. Your fingers hover over the record buttons, the sacred combo, play plus record. You've mastered the motion. Thumb and index finger, one fluid move. You've messed it up before, though. You've hit play without record and missed the opening of a favorite track. That kind of failure stays with you. You don't want to talk about it. A slow intro begins. You perk up. Is it? Could it be? The DJ says something over the first 5 seconds. You wince. He's still talking, and now it's clear, not the song you were waiting for. You relax. Not yet. You pass the time in little ways. There's a half-finished comic book lying beside the bed. Superheroes with complicated expressions and dialogue bubbles that take themselves too seriously. You flip through a few pages, not really reading, just letting the drawings drift by. The stereo keeps humming in the background. There's a short burst of static. The signal shifted for a second. You look up fast. The song's ending. This is the moment. Your thumb hovers again. The DJ comes back on. He draws it out. He always does. He knows what he's doing. There's a long pause. Then he drops a phrase you recognize. Up next, by request. Your entire body tightens. You press the buttons. Chunk. The tape is recording. The red light clicks on. The room holds still. The song begins. The one you've been waiting for since Tuesday afternoon when it started mid-chorus and your tape ended halfway through. This time, you've got it. The full thing. You sit motionless. Breathing feels optional. The fan continues to circle in its useless rhythm. You listen through the entire track like it's the only thing happening in the world. You know every lyric, every beat, every tiny instrumental break. You catch it all. Even the very end. You wait a second longer, then stop the tape just before the next ad starts. Perfect. You grin, not wide, just a quiet, satisfied curl of the mouth, the kind that no one else needs to see. You lean back on your elbows, looking at the ceiling. One of the glow in the dark stars has lost its stick and dangles a little. It wobbles with each pass of the fan's breeze. There's still room on the tape, still more day left. The stereo hums in quiet readiness. You're not done. Not yet. You're just getting started. You leave the bedroom, but only sort of. The radio stays on, volume low enough not to bother anyone, but loud enough to reach you down the hallway. You make sure of that, nudging the door open just enough, angling it until the sound slips through at a diagonal. You've done the math. Any more than a hand's width gap, and your mom will say it's wasting electricity. Any less, and you might miss the intro of something important. Like Wonderwall, which they've played 4 times this week, but never when you're ready. The hallway carpet feels cool against your feet. The afternoon sun hasn't made it in this far. The house is quiet. Not the kind of quiet that means something is wrong. Just the kind that happens when no one is using the blender or the landline. A kind of domestic pause. You pass the coat rack that holds precisely 1 raincoat, even though it hasn't rained since May. The umbrella beside it is partly broken and fully optimistic. No one's had the heart to throw it out. You pass the bathroom and glance in. The light is off. The mirror is spotted from whoever brushed their teeth with too much enthusiasm this morning. You keep moving. Your shoulder brushes the wall in that one spot where the paint is slightly bubbled. You've never asked why. It just island. The kitchen, as always, is its own world. Cooler somehow. Not cold, but balanced. The countertops are littered with signs of earlier activity. A used cereal bowl, a knife beside a nearly empty jar of peanut butter, a damp sponge sitting on the edge of the sink like it's had enough. The overhead light is off, so the room's lit only by sunlight that bounces in off the white tiles. There's a single banana on the counter, going brown in patches like a slow-motion bruise. No one seems to want to claim it, but no one wants to throw it away either. It's in banana limbo. You open the fridge, out of habit. Inside, a small carton of milk with someone's initial written on it, a leftover slice of pizza in a paper towel cocoon, and, for reasons that no longer surprise you, one Oreo on a saucer. You close the door gently. The hum of the motor resumes behind you, like it was holding its breath. You hear the faint buzz of your radio from down the hall, too muffled to make out the song. But the beat is familiar, not urgent, not one you need to catch. You're still safe. You wander to the living room. The couch is slightly slouched in the middle from years of movie nights and people insisting they weren't asleep. A few remote controls live on the coffee table, each one slightly sticky, none labeled in any helpful way. There's a stack of old VHS tapes in the cabinet, family birthdays, cartoons, a recorded-off TV copy of a movie where the commercials were never quite edited out right. You once watched one of them all the way through just for the ad breaks. They felt more honest than the actual film. Sunlight creeps through the big front window, catching the layer of dust on the windowsill and making it glow in that gentle, lazy way that makes you think about nothing in particular. Outside, someone walks a dog that's more leash than animal. A car passes slowly, stereo muffled by rolled-up windows. You can't tell what it's playing, but it might be the same thing your station is playing now. You imagine two radios, both tuned to the same song at slightly different delays. A conversation with a beat. Your stomach growls softly, unsure whether it wants anything or just wants to announce itself. You check the snack cabinet. Crackers. A box of raisins you've been avoiding since February. A sleeve of cookies with exactly one left, broken in half. You consider it, then leave it. Some decisions aren't worth the commitment. As you stand there, you hear the faint sound of the DJ again. He's doing that thing where he names 3 artists and asks which one listeners would bring to a desert island. You roll your eyes, but also quietly answer. Your answer changes every time. This week, it's Sheryl Crow. Last week, it was Coolio. The week before that, it was whoever sang that one song with the whistling in it. You can never remember their name, just that they had a music video with way too much fog. You head back down the hallway. The carpet is warmer now, touched slightly by the shifting Sunday. You pass the photo frames on the wall, school portraits, one of which still has a tiny piece of dried glue on the edge where someone tried to fix a crack in the glass. There's a picture of you holding a trophy, awkward and proud, surrounded by kids who look exactly like kids always do in trophies, like they aren't sure if they won or were just handed something heavy. Back in your room, the air feels a little thicker. The fan is doing its best. The song has changed again. This one's a maybe. You know the chorus, but not the verses. You hover near the stereo just in case, then let it go. You settle onto the floor again, cross-legged. The tape is still inside. The little wheels are still. Waiting. You press rewind and let it whir for a few seconds. Not because you need to, just because the sound feels nice, familiar, like a chore you don't mind doing, like fluffing a pillow you were already comfortable on. On your desk, the mixtape list lies open. You flip it over and write down the name of the last song you caught. You spell it wrong again. You always do. It's become part of the ritual, part of what makes it yours. Outside, the sky has shifted toward gold, the kind of light that makes everything feel slightly nostalgic while it's still happening. You reach for your pencil and twirl it once in your fingers before setting it down. There's no pressure to catch the next song. No one's rushing you. The stereo hums its approval, quiet and steady. The tape is blank, the afternoon is long, and somewhere in the airwaves, your next track is just waiting to be recorded. You'll know it when you hear it. The stereo has become something of a roommate. You don't talk to it out loud, not often anyway, but you interact with it more than most humans on a given day. You know the way its buttons respond, the gentle delay between pressing play and the click of the tape head engaging. You know which part of the top panel always collects the most dust, and you know that the right side speaker has a faint rattle when playing anything with bass. Not annoying, just personal. Like the way your uncle clears his throat before telling a story he's told 5 times before. You're back on the floor, cross-legged again. A slight ache forming in your ankle from sitting like this too long. You shift your weight and rest your back against the bed frame. The stereo sits on its usual spot on the low shelf, surrounded by cassette cases arranged in no particular order. Some are labeled. Some are blank. One just says, "End of You." A mystery tape you don't remember recording but refuse to erase, just in case it contains something important. You've never bothered to play it again. Its mystery has become its function. There's a clear favorite among your growing collection. A cassette with a label that's worn soft at the corners. Its ink smudged by thumbprints and time. It reads, Mix 1, Real Good, in bold, uneven handwriting. The word real is underlined 3 times, which you vaguely remember doing in a moment of pride or possibly over-caffeinated triumph after finally catching that one elusive song after 7 failed attempts. The tape is like a time capsule of the last month. It starts with a weathered transition from the end of a call-in show into a song with a dramatic string intro. Then there's a mid-tape interruption. A DJ casually announcing a traffic jam on the westbound before jumping into a pop ballad with no real connection. You remember deciding to keep that part. It felt authentic. Felt like it belonged to the moment. One song cuts off abruptly 2 seconds before the final chorus. Your younger sibling had walked in and said your name, startling you into pressing stop. You'd stared at them in horror, then rewound and listened again just to confirm, yes, it was gone. 2 seconds short. Too late now. The moment had passed. You didn't erase it. You just moved on. You keep Mix 1 Real Good close by. Not to play it, but because it feels like a reminder that you can build something over time, one accidental success at a time. It's a messy monument to patience. Or stubbornness. Possibly both. Next to the stereo is a plastic pencil box filled with spare tape labels. Some came with the cassettes, still unused. Others are hand-cut pieces of notebook paper trimmed to fit inside the clear spine. One has a tiny doodle of a cat that you drew while waiting for a 3-minute intro to resolve into a chorus worth recording. The cat has one eye bigger than the other and no tail. It's never been explained. Occasionally, a visitor to your room, a cousin, a friend, the rare adult with curiosity and no intention to judge, will pick up a cassette and turn it over, looking for clues. You always watch closely. Not because you're worried they'll break something, but because you're silently ranking them by how they hold the tape. If they touch the exposed film, they drop at least 3 points. If they blow into the cassette slot like it's a game cartridge, you mentally promote them to honorary sibling. One regular in this story is your best friend, who once suggested organizing your tapes by mood instead of artist. You tried it for a day, creating categories like Windows Open and Don't Skip and Raining Maybe. It didn't stick, but you appreciated the idea. They also once attempted to record over your tape with an audio message. Hello from the future. You still owe me a soda. You caught it mid-sentence, and now keep that snippet buried between two songs. A strange intermission that makes you laugh every time it plays. Then there's the pencil, the most important item in the whole operation. It lives beside the stereo like a co-pilot, a yellow number. 2, mostly chewed, eraser long gone, sharpened unevenly with a blade you're not technically allowed to use, unsupervised. Its real purpose isn't writing, though it has done that too, usually in margins or on backs of receipts. Its true calling is tape rewinding. You've perfected the technique. Insert, rotate clockwise. Listen to the satisfying flutter of spooled tape tightening again. It's faster than using the stereo's built-in rewind, and more satisfying somehow, more precise, like cleaning your glasses with a shirt you trust. There's a small crack in the stereo's casing, just near the power button. It's been there since it slid off the shelf during a particularly energetic attempt to dance while untangling your headphone cord. You remember that moment only because of how slowly it fell, almost gracefully, followed by that unmistakable plastic thunk against the floor. It still works though. You pressed play immediately afterward, and when the music came out slightly muffled and distorted, you actually liked it more. You said, "It sounds deeper now," as if it had matured. Someone once told you that tapes wear out, that the more you play them, the more they stretch, degrade, lose quality. You've chosen not to think about that too much. Besides, the imperfections are half the charm. The hiss before a song begins, the warble when the tape warms up, the faint bleed from the other side if you're listening too closely. It's not broken. It's just lived in. The stereo doesn't complain. It doesn't correct you. It doesn't run out of storage space or require a login. It just waits, steady and unassuming. It doesn't care if the song you recorded cuts off too early, or if the volume dipped for 3 seconds when someone turned on the blender downstairs. It holds what you give it. Flawed, fragmented, perfect in its incompleteness. You rest your hand on the stereo for a moment, a casual gesture, but one that feels like acknowledgement. It hums faintly beneath your palm. The fan continues its slow circuit. Outside, the afternoon leans toward evening. The light in your room softens. Your thumb brushes the stop button, which has a slight wobble now. Still works, still does the job. The stereo doesn't rush you. It never has. There's still space on the tape. There's always space. You don't plan to lie down. It just sort of happens. One minute you're adjusting the stereo's volume, then the next you're leaning against the edge of your bed, and then you're fully stretched out across the floor, your head cushioned by one of the pillows you dragged down earlier for no particular reason. The carpet presses softly into the side of your face. Not exactly comfortable, but familiar. You spent a lot of afternoons like this, in this same spot, listening, waiting, drifting. The fan overhead creaks gently with every turn. It's a ceiling fan, technically, but only in the sense that it's attached to the ceiling. Its motion is less about providing airflow and more about marking time. Every few seconds, it ticks, soft, persistent, like a metronome for a very lazy song. The kind of sound you could fall asleep to, even though it's not trying to be soothing. It's just doing what it does. You close your eyes for a few seconds. The sunlight pressing through the window paints a soft rectangle on the inside of your eyelids. The air smells like warm dust, laundry detergent, and maybe a trace of bubble gum. It's the same detergent your family has always used. The one that doesn't really smell like anything, but always reminds you of clean socks and laundry day arguments. Somewhere in the distance, not far, but not inside the house, a dog barks. Not urgently, just once. As if to say, "I'm still here," and then move on. You let the sound pass through you. The dog isn't asking for anything. It's just part of the scenery. The stereo plays on. You've left the radio going, volume set to a low murmur that barely fills the room. The DJ is doing one of those segment intros again, speaking with the easy confidence of someone who believes people care about their opinion on beachside playlists. His voice fades into the beginning of a new song, one you almost recognize, but not quite. You wait for the chorus to be sure, but it never comes. Still, it's nice. You don't get up. Your legs stretch slightly against the floor. One foot brushes against your half-zipped backpack, still left out from earlier. Inside is a notebook filled with doodles, old spelling quizzes, and a folded paper that says "Do not open, private." Written by you, of course, which ironically makes it the first thing anyone would open. You haven't looked at it in weeks. You don't plan to now. You turn your head slightly, cheek resting on your arm. Your mixtape notes are still sitting nearby. The handwriting looks slanted from this angle, and the lines aren't as straight as they seemed before. You realize you accidentally smudged the ink earlier, just a little thumbprint near the bottom corner. You think about fixing it, but you don't move. This stillness isn't about being frozen. It's more like everything has decided to slow down at the same time. The room, the light, the sounds, even your thoughts. There's nothing tugging at your attention. No one asking questions or knocking on the door. Even the radio seems to understand the mood. The music playing now has no chorus, no loud parts. It just glides along like someone skating across a quiet lake. You wonder briefly if the tape is still rewound to the beginning of side B. You meant to check. You think about sitting up to see, just for a second, then letting yourself lie back down. But then you don't. The stereo will wait. It always does. There's no rush. The ceiling above you has a faint crack running diagonally across one corner. Not threatening, just something you've noticed 100 times but never mentioned to anyone. It looks like the ceiling is trying to split itself into zones. You watch it for a while, letting your eyes drift along the line like it's guiding you somewhere important. It isn't, but it passes the time. A distant car drives by outside. The tires roll slowly against the asphalt, and the low rumble fades almost immediately. You picture someone driving without the radio on, windows down, letting the world provide its own soundtrack. You wonder what that kind of quiet feels like. The fan ticks again, then again. You start to time your breathing with it. Inhale on one rotation, exhale on the next. You don't even notice you're doing it until your arms feel heavier, like they've decided to sink slightly into the carpet. Not in a dramatic way, just enough to remind you they exist. You catch a faint smell of something sweet, maybe the bubble gum wrapper left in your pocket, or maybe something outside. Someone could be baking, or it could just be the memory of something sweet, lingering for no reason at all. Smells do that sometimes, especially in rooms you've spent a lot of time in. The stereo plays another song you know, but it's one you've already recorded. You smile lazily, feeling proud that you got it the first time. You let it pass without even moving a muscle. The DJ's voice returns again, talking about traffic and upcoming shows at a venue you've never been to. His voice fades in and out like it's walking in circles around the room. He seems far away now. You glance toward the stereo again. It's still there, steady. The cassette inside hasn't moved, not since the last song you caught. It waits without judgment. There's no deadline. You'll get to it when you're ready. You always do. For now, the room holds you. The fan clicks. The light moves slightly across the floor. Your body sinks just a little more into the space it already knows. You don't need to do anything. Not for a while. The song on the radio ends, and for a second, there's only quiet. Then a new one begins. Soft and low. You stay exactly where you are. If you're enjoying this story so far, this quiet return to the days of mixtapes, radio DJs, and afternoons with nowhere else to be, feel free to subscribe to Quilloren Radio. There's a new sleep story here every night, always calm, always gentle, always waiting. Just like that stereo in the corner, humming through the hours. At some point, the edge between the room and your thoughts begins to blur, not in a sudden or dramatic way, just gently. Like fog rising off a street in the early morning, soft and slow and not really asking permission. The stereo is still playing, but the music no longer feels like it's coming from the speakers. It's just there, floating, as if the sound has taken up residence in the walls or settled gently into the floorboards. You don't question it. You just let it happen. You roll onto your back and stare at the ceiling. The glow in the dark stars up there, the ones you stuck on last summer, are barely visible in the fading daylight. But you know exactly where each one, island one near the corner, sags a little. Its adhesive never fully committed. It's been threatening to fall for months, but somehow it never does. The fan continues its lazy rotation, casting shifting shadows along the walls. Every few seconds, it makes that soft click again. The same click that's accompanied every nap, every evening, every deep sigh you've made in this room since you were tall enough to reach the light switch. The corners of the room start to look not different exactly, but less certain. The shelf that holds your stereo seems taller than you remember. The drawers under your bed stretch a little wider, as if the room is quietly exhaling. The cassette labels flutter, though the window is closed. You blink once, slowly. You don't sit up. You don't need to. The room is still here, just slightly more. Outside, the tree branches that usually sway gently now seem to ripple in longer, slower movements, like they're underwater, or like time's trying something new. The shadow of the curtain falls in a slightly different shape across the floor, like it's not quite sure what season it's in. And in this soft shift, you feel it, the house holding you in place, the stereo humming in agreement, the carpet becoming more of a cushion than a surface. The mixtape list beside you now looks older somehow. Not dusty, but aged, like it's been written and rewritten so many times that it remembers versions of you that even you don't. You reach out without looking and touch the side of the stereo. It's warmer than expected. The buttons feel softer, or maybe just more agreeable. The little red record light flickers gently, though you haven't pressed anything. It doesn't matter. Maybe it's recording something you're not aware of. Something internal. A dream layer tape. The DJ's voice comes through, but it's slower now. Not distorted, just more deliberate, like he's speaking across a great distance. He announces a song that never begins. Or maybe it already started a while ago and you just didn't notice. He thanks someone named Lydia for calling in, and then pauses so long you think he's done. Then he says, "It's a good one." With no further context, you agree anyway. The room shifts again. The walls aren't closer or farther. They just feel optional. You look toward the shelf where your favorite tapes are kept, and for a moment it seems like there are more of them than before. One of them is labeled with your name, but in handwriting that isn't yours. Another has no label at all, just a small sticker shaped like a strawberry. You imagine what might be on that one. Maybe a series of songs you've never heard but somehow know. Or maybe recordings of old conversations, or dreams, or moments that never quite happened but should have. There's one with a crack in the case that looks like a lightning bolt. You don't remember ever owning that one, but it feels like yours. You hear the tape inside the stereo whir, not loud, just present. And it's not entirely clear whether it's moving forward, backward, or somewhere in between. Somewhere, A commercial starts playing. You hear someone say something about iced tea and summer and music you can feel, but the ad ends before it really begins, and the music returns, this time a melody that you can't place at all. It sounds familiar only in the way that dreams feel familiar, stitched together from things you almost remember. A chorus without words. A rhythm without a source. The pencil that lives next to the stereo, the one you use to rewind tapes, is now perfectly sharp. You don't remember sharpening it. You're not even sure it's the same pencil. It might be the better version of itself, the pencil it always wanted to be. You let it rest where it island. It doesn't need anything right now. You glance toward the window, and outside the sky is a color that doesn't have a name, somewhere between late afternoon and soft memory. The clouds look like old cassette spools unrolling in slow motion. A small breeze moves the curtain even though there's no open window. You watch the fabric lift and fall like it's breathing. The stereo clicks softly, a reminder that it's still playing, still listening, still part of this room. You wonder just for a moment if it's always been more than just a machine. If, over time, it's absorbed some part of you, not in a magical way, just in the slow, quiet way objects do when they're trusted, when they're used, not just functionally, but familiarly. The kind of way that turns a plastic shell and some magnetic tape into something like a diary, something like a friend. The fan turns again. Click. A small piece of paper flutters near your desk. You don't remember leaving anything there. It's blank. Or maybe the writing is faded. Or maybe it's just waiting for you to write something on it later. A title for a song that doesn't exist yet. A mixtape for a moment that hasn't arrived. You're still on the floor, but you feel lighter now. Like the carpet has become something closer to air. You could drift here for hours. The stereo keeps playing. The songs come and go, unannounced. Time folds a little at the edges. The next track begins. And you don't know it, but you already like it. You close your eyes again, just for a little while. The sound in the room changes before anything else does. It's not loud, and it's not sudden. The music playing through the stereo doesn't stop. It simply softens into something more spacious. There are no lyrics in this one, just a quiet instrumental with a slow bass line and some faint synths that sound like they were recorded in an empty gymnasium. Everything stretches out. The notes seem to arrive slower, as if they've been given more room to breathe. You open your eyes. The light in your room has changed. It's not sunset yet, but it's heading that way. The golden tones that earlier streamed through your window have cooled slightly, now tinged with the soft gray-blue of a day beginning to exhale. The rectangle of sunlight on the floor has shifted, crawling halfway up the leg of your desk chair. Dust particles float in the beam, moving in slow, gentle spirals like they're unsure of their direction. You sit up slowly, not because you have to, but because something about the room feels slightly tilted. Not in a dizzying way, more like a hallway you've walked down 100 times that now seems longer than you remember. You stretch your arms over your head, and your shoulders pop in response. Your joints are quieter than they used to be, less dramatic, more cooperative. The air feels different now, cooler, not cold, but carrying the suggestion that the day is changing shifts. Somewhere in the house, someone's opened a window, and now a faint breeze moves through the hallway. You can't hear it, but you can feel its trace. The curtain at your window stirs again, this time with more purpose. The smell of the air has changed too, less like a room and more like outside. You catch a hint of grass, or pavement, or maybe just the general idea of air that's been somewhere else. Your stereo plays on, unbothered. The tape inside hasn't been touched. It sits patiently, waiting for its next moment. The record button stares at you like an old friend you haven't spoken to in a while, but who doesn't take it personally? You rise to your feet, slowly, feeling the mild stiffness of time spent lying down. The floor under your feet is warm in patches, cool in others. You cross the room and open your door wider. The hallway outside looks the same, but not exactly. The light coming from the kitchen has a softer tone, like someone dimmed the brightness on the day. You can't hear any voices, but the fridge hums. A door creaks in the distance. The house hasn't gone silent, it's just listening. Back in your room, you return to your chair. The mixtape list lies beside you, where you left it. You pick up your pencil, now dulled again, its point a little softer. You press it gently against the corner of the paper, not to write, just to feel the pressure. The graphite leaves a faint gray dot, like a sigh. Something inside the stereo clicks faintly, not a mechanical sound, more like a shift in tone. The current song ends, and instead of another track, the DJ's voice returns. But even he sounds different now. Slower, measured. Like he's been speaking to fewer people lately, or like he's speaking across a canyon. He thanks a listener for calling in, pauses, then says, "We're in the quiet part of the day now. Nothing more. No context." You nod, as if he said something profound. Maybe he has. The next track begins with a low hum and a distant piano, just a few notes, spaced far apart. There's nothing catchy about it. It's not a song you'd record, not for a mixtape, but you let it play. You adjust the volume ever so slightly, not to make it louder, but to hear the background. There's something in the static now, a texture, like wind on a microphone or the rustling of an old coat. The room feels a little bigger, or maybe you feel smaller. Not in a bad way, just like your edges are softer now, more blended with the space around you. You look at your bookshelf, the rows of old paperbacks, some of them inherited, some of them never actually read. One of the books has slipped forward, as if leaning toward the others. You don't fix it. It seems comfortable that way. Your reflection in the window is faint now. The outside light is just strong enough to push your face into the background. You can see the tree out front, its branches no longer swaying, but still, perfectly still. The breeze has stopped, or it has gone elsewhere. You turn the stereo off, not to stop the music, just to hear what the room sounds like without it. At first, it's quiet. Then, slowly, the house returns. The hum of a vent. The slight creak of the desk as you shift your weight. A soft tick from the wall clock, which has been quietly keeping time even when no one was paying attention. You breathe in. The air is neutral, clean, familiar. You breathe out. The room stays steady. Outside, a car door closes somewhere. A screen door slams. A bird calls, then falls silent. The sky continues dimming, gently, without showmanship. You sit there for a while, not doing anything. You don't need to. This is the shift, not a change of place, but a change of depth. The same room, the same light, the same stereo, just quieter, slower, more like memory than moment. The evening settles in without ceremony. The color of the sky outside shifts toward muted lavender. The kind of tone that would be impossible to describe if someone asked, but which feels perfectly normal in the moment. Your room too leans into this slow descent. Shadows stretch a little farther, the corners soften. The light overhead stays off, and the remaining glow comes only from outside, diffused, slow, and utterly unbothered. You lean back in your chair, legs stretched under the desk, arms draped at your sides. There's a quiet comfort to the angle you've landed in. as if your body has found the precise shape it needed for this moment. The stereo is still off. It's not silence, not really. More like a soft ambient hush that makes room for thought. The kind of hush that absorbs small movements, the shuffling of your feet, the sound of fabric shifting, the faint brushing of paper near your elbow. Your eyes drift to the stereo, and for a few long seconds, you don't see it as it is, but as it might be, or as it might be remembered. Years from now, someone might find it boxed up in an attic, tucked between old blankets and forgotten books, still covered in the same dust it always attracted. They might not even know what it does at first. They'd pick it up, feel the weight of it, press one of the worn plastic buttons and wonder why it doesn't respond immediately. They might laugh a little when they discover it takes tapes, real magnetic tape, something they've only heard about in stories or seen in movies about people who always seem to have more time to wait for things. You imagine a future where tapes are artifacts, not objects, where the idea of waiting for your favorite song to play live on the radio just so you can press record sounds like a folktale. Someone might say, "Why didn't you just stream it?" And you'd have to explain what it meant to sit beside a stereo for an hour, hand hovering over the button, hoping no one would walk in and start talking right before the chorus. That kind of patience, you suspect, might not be easy to find anymore. Maybe someday people will forget what it felt like to record something imperfectly and be proud of it anyway. To miss the beginning of a track, catch it halfway through, and still decide it was worth keeping. You wonder if that kind of imperfection will be allowed in the future, or if everything will be too smooth, too corrected, too polished for anyone to care. You picture the tapes themselves, all of them lined up with their handwritten labels and mismatched cases, each one a time capsule that doesn't quite play the same way twice. Maybe someone else will listen to them one day, long after you've forgotten what you put on them. They'll hear a scratchy version of a song and wonder what life looked like in the moment that you pressed record. They'll hear the DJ's voice halfway through and not know who he was, but still feel something. Some strange connection to the idea that this music mattered to someone once. You turn your eyes to your list of songs again. The handwriting has faded slightly over the course of the day, not in reality, but in your mind. The letters seem softer now, like they know their time as active information is ending. Maybe one day, decades from now, someone will find that piece of paper tucked into a book or a box and try to decipher what the abbreviations meant. CR, slow mix, might be clear enough. MT5 looped would take more imagination. Maybe they'll think it was code, or poetry, or a message left behind from a quieter time. You think about the stereo's future companions, how technology will move forward while it stays exactly the same. Maybe by then, people won't even keep physical things. Maybe they'll live in clean digital spaces where nothing takes up room and nothing ever gets scratched. You wonder what they'll miss out on. The soft mechanical whir of a tape rewinding, the satisfying clunk of a button pressed fully down, the little sticker residue left on the side of a cassette from a label you peeled off and never replaced. You wonder if they'll ever know the satisfaction of a pencil spinning inside a tape spool, perfectly aligned and steady, repairing something by hand. And then you wonder if anyone will be sitting where you are now, on a floor, beside a window, in a room filled with fading light, trying to make something quiet and small and meaningful out of a stretch of unscheduled time. You hope so. Not out of nostalgia, but because this kind of moment feels necessary. The act of being still, of listening to something as it happens without skipping ahead, it feels rare now. You can't imagine it will become more common in the future. You picture a version of this room, years from now. The same layout maybe, but with newer furniture. A bed that doesn't creak. A rug that's been replaced. No posters on the walls, but maybe digital frames. The stereo might be gone, or stored away. But maybe something else will take its place. A different kind of speaker, silent until spoken to, ready to summon any song on demand. You can imagine it answering commands instantly, playing perfect versions with perfect timing. No waiting, no missed beginnings, no tape hiss. And yet, despite all that, you suspect something might be missing. You imagine a kid in that future, sitting on the floor of their perfectly quiet room, looking through a virtual catalog of music. Maybe they'll come across a playlist labeled 1996 Mixtape Vibe and wonder what it means. Maybe they'll play a track and hear the same song you once caught live on the radio, recorded with shaky hands and a half-used cassette. And maybe, just maybe, they'll hear something in the texture, in the grain of the sound, that feels more alive than anything else on their list. You hope that happens. You hope the stereo's odd little quirks live on in someone else's curiosity. Maybe not your stereo exactly, but what it represents. The care, the patience, the willingness to wait for something good. You glance down at the stereo again, and it looks exactly the same as before, but somehow more significant. Not because it's rare or valuable, but because it's been there through all these quiet, unnoticed hours. Because it's been part of the rhythm of your days, part of the shape your afternoons take when no one else is watching. You think about all the time you've spent in this room, doing nothing urgent, nothing remarkable, and yet these hours feel full in a way that's hard to explain. Maybe one day you'll try to describe them to someone and realize there are no perfect words for it. No big moments. Just this, soft light, slow songs, and the quiet companionship of an object that never needed to do more than play whatever came next. You don't know how much longer this part of your life will last. One day, the tapes might all be boxed up. The stereo might be stored or donated. You might trade this kind of stillness for something faster, louder, more complicated. But you think, if you're lucky, you'll remember this. Not the songs exactly, and not the labels or the track lists, but the way the room felt when it started to get dark. The way the stereo hummed like it was breathing. The way the fan ticked in time with your thoughts. The way you never knew what song would play next, and how somehow that made it feel more personal. You breathe in slowly, and the air carries with it the quiet presence of every afternoon like this you've ever had. You breathe out and wonder, softly, what someone else will think when they find these tapes years from now, and whether they'll press play. The light in your room no longer moves. It is settled, like everything else. The sun outside has dipped just enough that the window no longer glows. It's dim now, but not dark. The walls hold onto a bluish gray, and the ceiling seems a little lower, in a comforting way, like a blanket you didn't realize had been pulled over you. You don't reach for the lamp. There's something good about the way the room feels right now, untouched by electric light. Your eyes adjust slowly, shapes turning soft and rounded, edges disappearing into each other. The desk blends into the bookshelf, and the rug into the floor. Nothing asks for your attention anymore. Nothing needs adjusting, straightening, organizing. Everything can stay exactly where it island. You're back on the floor, pillow behind your head, knees slightly bent, arms resting gently at your sides. The carpet has picked up the warmth from earlier. It holds it now like a quiet promise that the day was good enough. The stereo is still off. The tape inside sits perfectly still, untouched since the last track ended. You haven't rewound it. You haven't labeled anything new, and you don't need to. The fan turns in its slow rhythm above you, steady and unhurried. Its sound is part of the room now, not separate. If it stopped, you'd notice. but only because something familiar would be missing. You listen to it the way you used to listen to your parents talk in the kitchen after dinner, not for meaning, just for presence. That soft reminder that something around you continues, even when you're quiet. Somewhere down the hallway, a door closes. Then nothing. You exhale and feel the breath leave your chest, warm against your shirt. You watch the ceiling, not because it does anything, but because it's the only place left to look. The stars you stuck up there months ago are faint now. One has fallen off entirely. You never picked it up. It's probably under the bed, waiting. Or maybe it isn't. Your eyes begin to blur a little. You let them. Everything in the room becomes just a little more abstract, more about tone than detail. There's a small patch of shadow on the wall that looks like it might be shaped like a dog. You stare at it for a few seconds, then forget it's there. The stereo remains the only thing with any clear lines, its front panel faintly catching what little light is left. You can see the buttons still. Stop, eject, play, rewind. You could reach for them without looking, but they ask nothing of you now. Your shoulder shifts slightly against the carpet, and you let one leg slide out straight. There's a little click in your hip, but it doesn't bother you. Just another gentle reminder that your body still moves, even when your thoughts are standing still. The room has grown cooler, but not enough to reach for a blanket. Just enough to make your skin feel a little more aware of itself. You listen for the house again. It gives you nothing. A soft stillness that's neither empty nor full, just there. The quiet between songs. The pause after a question that didn't need an answer. You could fall asleep like this, or not. It would be fine either way. The scent of the room has settled too. It's something like fabric and air. Nothing distinct, just the kind of smell that tells you you've been here a while, and that's okay. Somewhere beneath the stereo shelf, one of your socks has curled into itself. You see it now and feel no need to move it. It belongs to this moment, just as much as anything else. You turn your head slightly, resting one cheek against the pillow. The fabric is warm on one side, cooler on the other. You don't bother flipping it. The stereo is now in your periphery, a familiar shape and soft focus. You remember the sound it makes when it clicks on. The way the tape spools tighten before music begins. You remember the first tape you ever ruined, recording over it by accident. You'd cried, briefly, not because the music was lost, but because something you'd made had vanished. Now, that memory makes you smile faintly. The kind of smile that doesn't need to be seen by anyone. You let your eyelids drift downward, not quite closed, but no longer fully open either. The ceiling becomes a blur of motionless tones. Your breathing slows without you asking it to. The rhythm of the fan overhead matches your own now. Click. Breathe in. Click. Breathe out. The day has folded in on itself. Whatever it contained, songs you didn't catch, scribbled labels, blank tapes, half-thoughts, can stay right where they are. There's nothing left to hold. The stereo doesn't blink. The room doesn't move. Even your thoughts feel padded now, like they've wrapped themselves in something soft before settling down for the night. You shift once more, not to find a better position, but just to feel the body you're resting in. Your fingers curl gently against the edge of the pillow. You breathe again, and the breath feels thicker now, slower. It stays a moment before leaving. There is nothing left to wait for. The room does not need music right now. It needs this: stillness, dimming, descent. There's no more light in the room now. Not really. The last of it has faded from the window, and whatever remains is ambient, the kind of dimness that doesn't cast shadows, doesn't offer contrast. just gently rests over everything like a quiet fog. You're still lying on the floor, not because you've decided to stay, but because your body has gradually forgotten why it would move. The stereo sits quietly nearby, unchanged. You haven't touched it. Its buttons still reflect the softest sliver of light from somewhere, maybe from the hallway, or maybe just from the memory of light. The tape is still inside. You know exactly which one it is and which track is queued up next, but there's no urge to hear it now. It can wait. You can almost hear it anyway, without needing to press anything. The melody is already woven into the hush. The carpet under you has flattened in the shape of your shoulder and hip. You can feel your breath moving softly through your chest, unhurried, heavier now. Every inhale is slightly longer than the last. Your hands rest quietly near your ribs, not doing anything, not readying for anything. They've joined the room in stillness. And the room, in turn, has joined the rest of the house. There is no clock ticking anymore, or maybe there is, but its sound has folded into the background. You no longer distinguish between what's mechanical and what's imagined. The fan still turns above you, slowly. The click that once marked each rotation now blends perfectly with the tempo of your breath. Every few moments, there's a subtle thrum of wood settling, or air moving through a vent, but you don't assign those sounds names or meanings anymore. They're just part of the hush. Nothing feels unfinished. The notes you scribbled on the mixtape list earlier, they can stay how they are. The song you didn't record, the tape you didn't rewind, the corner of the room you forgot to tidy, none of it matters in this light. Not because it's been forgotten, but because it's been set down gently. Letting things be incomplete has its own kind of peace. Your eyes close for longer stretches now, then blink open slowly. You aren't deciding to fall asleep. Sleep is simply becoming the most natural option available. Not because you're tired, but because there is nothing else pulling on your attention. The future you imagined earlier, the one with invisible playlists and silent rooms, feels far away again. Not gone, but softened, distant. You're back here now, in this room that knows you, with its uneven fan and smudged cassette labels and a window that only ever opened halfway. You wonder if you'll remember this exact moment in 20 years. Not the specifics maybe, but the feeling, the weight of your body against the floor, the soft pulse in your neck, the sense that the world has quieted just for you, even though you know it hasn't. You think briefly about all the days you've spent in this room. Not just today, but every similar day before. School afternoons, rainy weekends, long summer evenings where nothing really happened but still left behind a feeling, a kind of gentle imprint. You wonder if this is how memory forms, not from events, but from atmosphere. From a stereo playing songs into a fading room and a body at rest with no plan. The shape of your room has changed in the dark. It no longer feels like a square with walls and corners. It's become a space with no hard edges. The bookshelf, the desk, the pile of socks near the dresser, none of them need to be seen or interacted with right now. You could reach for any of them, but you won't. You don't need anything in this moment except this moment. The thought comes and goes. There will be other mixtapes, other songs, other rooms even. One day this stereo may not work anymore. The buttons might stick, the sound might fade, the tapes may lose their clarity, but tonight, it's still here, you're still here, and that's enough. There's comfort in the ordinariness of it all. The soft creak of your knee as you adjust slightly, the texture of the pillow under your cheek, the way your shirt has wrinkled along one side. None of these things are remarkable, but they form the fabric of right now. And right now is unhurried, weightless, whole. You let your eyes stay closed a little longer. The ceiling exists behind your eyelids, just as steady. You still sense the shelf of tapes behind you, the quiet of the hallway, the fading warmth from the floor. They don't ask for attention. They simply stay. And so do you. The night outside is full now. You don't know what time at Island. You haven't looked at a clock in hours. There's no schedule to return to, no story to wrap up, no music to skip to. You let the moment stretch out, not because you need more of it, but because there's nowhere else to be. Your breath deepens again. Your body relaxes further. You are no longer listening for anything. The stereo doesn't need to play. The room doesn't need to change. The story doesn't need to continue. You are already at the quiet part. The room has fully disappeared now into softness. Its shapes remain, but only faintly. Suggestions of furniture, outlines where light once touched, nothing distinct. There's a glow from the hallway, dim and distant, but it doesn't reach you. It only reminds you that the world still exists beyond the walls, beyond the quiet. Your body has become part of the floor, not heavy, just settled. The way a book rests when closed, the way a cat sleeps in a sun-warmed patch of rug. You're no longer positioned so much as placed gently and naturally, the way a favorite object ends up back in its usual spot without anyone thinking too hard about it. The air has cooled slightly, just enough to slow your breath a little more. Inhale. A brief pause. Exhale. That small motion is everything now. The rhythm beneath all other rhythms. There are no more sounds to distinguish. Only the hush. It surrounds everything. Not a silence that feels empty, but one that holds everything in place. A blanket made of soundlessness. Your face rests on the side of the pillow that still remembers your shape. The fabric touches your skin with the same softness it had when the light was still visible, but it feels different now, deeper somehow, more present. Your eyes are closed, and behind your eyelids, the images of the room flicker faintly. The stereo, the window, the fan. All of it remains, but none of it asks to be remembered sharply. It's enough that it was there, that it mattered when it did. You no longer think about the tapes, or the labels, or the track list. The pencil beside the stereo waits in its usual spot, quietly irrelevant. The next side of the mixtape will not be played tonight. There is no need to flip it. The tape can rest, just like you. Time has slowed to the point of stillness. Your arms feel distant now, not numb, but no longer involved. They're simply there, existing quietly, along with the rest of you. Your fingers curl gently, relaxed completely. The fan overhead continues its rotations, but you've stopped noticing the sound. It has merged with the pulse of the room. You could open your eyes again, but you don't. You could stretch, shift, speak, but there is nothing left that requires action. Outside the window, the tree no longer moves. Or perhaps it does. Slowly, invisibly, the way shadows do. The room could be floating for all you know. It feels unanchored, and yet safe. You have no thought of tomorrow, or even of the next minute. There's only now, only breath and stillness and warmth. Your thoughts no longer line up like sentences. They drift, single words without purpose. A song title, a color, the feel of carpet under bare feet. The voice of the DJ from earlier, long gone but echoing faintly in some corner of your memory. It doesn't matter if you remember exactly what he said. The tone is enough. Like everything else in this space, it was soft and unhurried. You breathe in again. The air is cool and smooth. You breathe out, and your whole body seems to sigh with it. Even your thoughts stretch out, fading slightly at the edges. The world around you has nothing sharp, nothing waiting. Everything is still, and everything is right where it should be. The stereo is silent now, but in that silence, the music lingers, not as sound, but as sensation. The feeling of a slow drum beat, the memory of a soft chord. It doesn't matter which track played last. What matters is the way it made the air feel thicker, more saturated, like the room itself had slowed to listen. Your legs have stopped shifting, your head is cradled in place. You don't wonder how long you've been here. Time isn't shaped like ours anymore. It's shaped like comfort. Like the warmth held in the space between your shoulder and the floor. Like the absence of anything needing to be fixed or reached for. Even the small shadows have stilled. There's nothing left to change now. No more decisions to make. No more observations to follow. You feel yourself loosening, sinking further into quiet. Not vanishing, just becoming simpler. One breath, then another, each one slower, each one heavier. The soft weight of the pillow, the warmth in your chest, the stillness of the room, the hush. There is nothing else now, only sleep.